Well, hello, and a very warm welcome back to the Andrew Ebon Show with me, Andrew Ebon. Who else? It's got to be good. Going all the way to South Africa again with a good chum, Errol. How you doing, Errol?
I'm good, thank you. And you?
Hey, phenomenal. And I'll tell you what, the world burst a blood vessel seeing how glorious it was with this SpaceX achieving a world first on the Starship rocket. How did you feel when you saw it yourself?
Well, it is what was planned. It was planned all along. That there've been this, what do you call it? Videos made of how it would look. So we have already seen how it should operate, and in a sort of a movie, a faked up movie. But now this is the real thing. So it's the fact that it worked. I mean, it is mind blowing. I think at the moment, most technical sections of governments and places around the world must be absolutely walking around in a daze because what happened was beyond anything that has ever been done in engineering in the world, history of the world. Nobody's ever done anything even remotely similar to that. You have to understand that this unit stands at the level of about 32-story building. So I don't think there's a 32-story building in London. I'm not sure. but it stands the height of maybe the Shard or something like that. When it's got the top one on, it's a 44-story building. So that gives you some idea of what we're talking about. This is, it's like catching a ship like the Titanic out of the air or something like that. It's beyond extreme. As I said, it's beyond excellent, and it's beyond an extreme achievement. And as I say, a lot of people in governments and people, regulatory bodies and everything must be thinking, how can we stop this? How can we stop this? Let's stop this.
And it is incredible because, I mean, you say everybody was expecting it. I mean, everybody, I think, was expecting it. We'll have a few attempts. It won't be perfect, first of all. But and I think Elon even famously said, "Look, we'll keep trying. We expect we may not succeed first time, but every time
Yeah.
we get on with it, we're going to be a step closer." I think the world was taken by delightful surprise that it worked.
Oh, yes. But again, very worrying to a lot of people, in the other that are trying to keep the right pace, in the world. I mean, the Russians are launching Soyuz very successfully, but with engines that were developed in the 1960s, why change? The engines work, so there's no reason to change them. But and one has to take your hat off to the Russians. But I mean, NASA tried with Boeing and so on to do the Artemis project. It was a complete mess. It was a total mess. And, so people, let's forget about the rest of the world. In the US, I don't know if you know this, but Boeing and United Launch Alliance used to get $1 billion a year retainer, whether they did anything or not, from NASA. So if they did nothing that year, they got $1 billion anyway, just a retainer. And they've now shown that they can't even send up 2 astronauts to the International Space Station properly. So, and that's after they've been given $4.5 billion to do it, and Elon was given $2.6 billion to do it. Nearly half of what they gave Boeing was given to Elon. Elon has turned that into astronauts that can walk in space and regular up and down trips to the space station and da 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 da. I also like to say, you're going on about the Starship, but last week Elon introduced the robot, the Tesla robot,
Yeah, I
the
love that. We
Robotaxi
spoke
and the
about that,
Robovan.
didn't we? The We Robot event.
Yes, this is almost the same level of achievement of as the Starship in that field, and as the fundies at Forbes and big banks like Morgan Stanley said, this has added, without a doubt, added $1 trillion to Tesla's net worth. $1 trillion was added today to the net worth of Tesla. Strangely enough, the Tesla share price started to fall, but this was because all the media and everybody started telling people it was faked. The robots were faked. The car was faked, and da 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 da. So the share price will fall. Of course, nothing was faked. I mean, that's absolutely the last thing Elon would do. So they, in this situation, they had a barman, a robot barman with an Aussie dinger hat, on, serving guys and talking to them and serving them drinks. Now, somebody said, no, there's somebody behind the scenes with a little toggle, working the barman. Now, I'd like to know how good that guy with the toggle would have to be for him to pour a drink, pick up the glass and put it down in front of somebody. I mean, he couldn't do it. Yeah. They're going to smash the glass down. They're going to drop it before it's, because, you with your little toggle there and you're far away possibly, or you're looking through a camera, you can't see properly. No, these were genuine. They had a Tesla robot having a conversation with the crowd, sitting cross-legged and talking to the crowd about
it was brilliant. I mean, we spoke about this in a previous conversation that you and I had about it, and it was extraordinary because having seen this successful thing, you're right, the share price fell 8%, 8% on good. And I think you said there was too much of a good thing, there was too much to take in, or something was one of the suggestions.
Yes, and also the media, got on. This is fake. This is fake. Tesla's now, Elon's now done his biggest mistake ever, faking this. But I would say to anyone that by the end of the month, Tesla's shares will be up $50 on what they are. No, they'll be up about, I'd say they'll be up about $80 what they are now by the end of the month. So that's what I would say.
It's a good investment. People always worry they had concerns about delivery and about safety and so on and so forth. And I think you and I again we suggested that what you do, you undersell, sort of under promise and over deliver is the secret.
Well, they keep on saying that Elon keeps missing his delivery promises and all that sort of stuff. I mean, nobody promises anything. You say, I'm going to try and have it done by such and such a time. It would be like saying to Alexander Fleming, why the hell didn't you come up with penicillin for the First World War? Why did you wait for the Second World War? What's wrong with you? I mean, give it don't be ridiculous. You do the most you can. And it's a slow process, So
Yeah, it is funny, isn't it? Because whenever there's success, I always say, whenever there's a hit, there's a writ, or you're getting people sort of turning around and saying, well, they invented it first, or they want to cause problems, don't they? And you have a lot of people in regulations. So the FAA, for example, they've raised environmental impact concerns, and they've got this dispute with SpaceX as well about licensing violations. What's your take on the FAA?
Well, I mean, look, the FAA is very important. They were from the beginning. They proved that they were good, But again, an organization gets bloated like the CIA here, similar thing, and they start employing people who have very little knowledge about the very thing that they're supposed to be regulating, and it becomes jobs for pals. And if you're in one of those type of places doing that kind of work, you all look after each other, because you never want to say so-and-so's job is superfluous, because somebody might say your job is superfluous too, you see. And so these sort of organizations get bigger and bigger, more bloated and worse, and start losing track of what they're actually supposed to be doing, And so that every now and again they need to be sort of resorted out or reshuffled. And that's what Trump is talking about now with Elon, being appointed, hopefully it's just as a figurehead, and giving people instructions on how to cut down these bloated civil service setups, because they just become bloated out of all proportion. And no one in a civil service job is going to tell anyone that so-and-so in the civil service with him shouldn't be there because he doesn't do anything, because he's also not doing anything. So the others would all round on him and have him chucked out too. So it's the civil service is a self-destructive. It's got a built-in self-destruction mode to it. I was explaining to you once, if you had 10 men who landed, sort of saved themselves by landing on an island, in a tropical island, off a ship that went down or something. Generally, if the island had trees and so forth, they'd probably select one of the guys as let's say, I wouldn't say the leader, but the captain or the skipper or something. And his job would be to give everyone a task. And one task would be to collect fruit, the other one would be to collect water, the other would collect firewood, the other one would collect sheltering materials, and so forth. And the other 9, he might keep one of the other 9 as his sort of aide, to adjutant to keep the record. And but as time goes by on a situation like that, as I've explained to you, you come back a few months later and they're still stuck on the island. There's now 4 men in the skipper's camp and 4 men doing the work. And you come back a little bit later, and there's 6 or 8 men in the skipper's camp and 2 men doing the work, because they all found it's much nicer to be working for the skipper, than to be out there looking for firewood, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So that's the lesson of it. It has to be reshuffled every now and again,
Yeah, and I think it is important because there's always these sort of run-ins. And what is it? I think the FAA, they imposed a $633,000 fine on SpaceX for allegedly violating license conditions on previous flights.
Well, it's a peanut fine for SpaceX, but whether they, the fines in America are a little different. When they make these sort of fines, sometimes it's an amount of money to be provided to an area that's experienced some loss, and it's to shake up their park or something, or their trail or something. So the money isn't just wasted. It's sometimes directed for a good purpose, if you know what I mean. It's not all. America has always been like that. They don't just take the money and hand it out as 2 blokes in the back room. It's actually used to settle the grievances of people who complained about something, improve their parks or whatever it is, their roads or their potholes or whatever it is. Yeah. So, coming to another thing, we were talking about this. I just wanted to say something about this summit that you have for inventors and so on and so forth in England now, London. You call it the Investor Summit, Inventors Summit.
So the idea is to attract people to come and invest in the UK, and all sorts of people were invited, but Elon wasn't.
Yes. What I wanted to say about that was, it's tantamount to, the most important and the biggest race to achieve in all humanity is the race to get the girl. So, unfortunately, the guys with the biggest drive, the biggest lightning in their muscles and so forth, they tend to do this. But let's assume that you have a sort of a high school or something, senior high school, where the sort of civil service type guys say, we're going to have a summit and everybody's going to come together about who's going to get the girl, who's going to get what girl. And so everybody comes, and this summit is going to decide what school youth gets what school girl as his girlfriend. I mean, it's not going to work. It's just not going to work. Everybody's going to run for a mile because they're not going to accept any rule that these people come up with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It would be a futile attempt by the nerds or whatever you might call them to try and get somewhere with the girls, but it won't work. Yeah. It has to go back to the situation that to the best, the one who's the best. The battle is to the strong, the battle is to the swift.
Absolutely. And people need to learn those sort of lessons from history. I mean, Elon, as you say, he's a number of people who said he's the de facto president of the United States. We work on that sort of principle. Certainly one of the most influential people in the world, which we've spoken about. And it was absolute nonsense. But what I'm delighted by these successes. But as you say, he's now having to deal with the FAA. He's threatened to sue them over the fine. And they refute the claims about the environmental pollution. What's your take on that? What do you think this ongoing battle is how's it going to be resolved?
Well, it's a dead end battle to fight with, the people at the traffic fines department. It's a dead end battle. It's a dead end. So the thing is, you have to somehow, try and see how you can deal with it by keeping them happy and avoid getting, fines. I mean, it's not going. They dig their heels in. You try and dig your heels in. It's like just difficult. You're not going to. You have to come to terms with it. You have to appeal to their sense of reason, and they will, of course. And of course, there may be. I doubt it. I doubt that Elon is doing anything that is seriously endangering anybody or any environment. But he has to give a thought to anything that they come up with. And you can't just ignore them because they may well have a good something important to say. A lot of the stuff that, let's say the debris that might return to Earth from space objects, it's stuff that all came from Earth. I mean, it's not as though it's some foreign, radioactive stuff or anything like that. It's just stuff that came out of Earth in the first place. So, it goes back into the sea. If it's aluminium, it corrodes and just becomes a lump of ore again. So, but I think he would give, certainly not ignore them. He certainly would give them, number one, a seat at the table with him, for sure. He's not going to ignore them at all. No, absolutely.
It is interesting. Well, following the success within almost a hair's breadth, if you like, of Elon's success, NASA they launched their Europa Clipper mission to Jupiter, and I don't know if you saw that sort of stuff.
Yes,
and they're going to go and have a look and see if there's life up there, focusing on its salty ocean beneath a thick ice crust. What was your take on that?
Good. I mean, I don't know. Was it launched on a SpaceX rocket?
Well, October the 14th, it was launched at NASA Kennedy Space Center. They used SpaceX Falcon Heavy rocket, and the mission budget is approximately $5 billion.
Okay, so with the Falcon Heavy, that's an ginormous rocket. So that's good. That sounds good to me. I did see it. Now I'm refreshing my memory. Yes, no, that's a brilliant endeavor. I mean, they want to see. Well, it's very good for SpaceX to be able to take the Falcon Heavy that far, to Jupiter. And they want to see whether Europa, which is either Europa, I think it is, that's covered in ice, water.
Yes.
To see whether there's even microbe life in the water of Europa, The difficulty, of course, is that Europa is very far from the sun. And any warmth that you would get that would encourage life at that distance from the sun, from my point of view, it's too far, not warm, no warmth.
Yes, there you go. No atmosphere. You've got to work on this. But we touched on this beforehand about discovering life on different planets, and I made the point it's arrogant to think there isn't life out there. There's certainly the circumstances where life could exist. Elon's in a big rush to populate Mars. Trump has said that if he's elected before the end of that next presidency, he will help Elon on that mission. What's your take? Obviously, the success that Elon had in the last few days, it takes us a big step further. What's your take on all of that?
No, well, I mean, it's terrific. I mean, we should be trying to do that. I mean, Mars, it's not that promising a place, but it's all we've got. So Venus would be much better, but Venus is the same size as Earth, and just unfortunately, it's a carbon dioxide inferno. So it's just sad. But I mean, we have to try. I think we can't just not do it, And I mean, it's all been done in the storybooks long ago.
They had one storybook. My wife keeps reminding me about men are from Mars and women from Venus. There we go.
True. That's kind of true. That's true. That's pretty true. Yeah, so I remember that was a book from the 70s. Very true. Very true.
Yeah. It is interesting. But it is interesting, I say, and it's the timing of it which was particularly interesting, because Elon had his success, and then NASA, as they say, they launched this within just a few hours, if you like. I mean, just a couple of days afterwards.
Well, no, I wouldn't imagine that it had anything to do with the two launches. The launch of the Falcon Heavy would have been predetermined 18 months ago from the astronomy people to give the best window of opportunity. So the actual launch would have been predetermined long ago. It wasn't. It just happened to happen now.
Yes.
And as far as SpaceX, if you'd asked Elon 3 months ago or SpaceX, will you be launching Starship last Thursday, as it happened, or whenever it was, they wouldn't have been able to tell you because they were trying to get it done. I mean, even in December when I was with Elon, he said to me, I said, you need to get another one up as soon as possible. He said, well, he's going to get one up by February. Another one, I think, or January. I think he may have said January, which is about a month or two away. He's going to put another one up, and in fact, they only put another one up in about April or maybe May. I'm not sure. So it takes time. It's not as though you can, with them, they're actually working with an ongoing, thing. Depends on how well everybody came into work and everybody put their effort in. But the NASA thing would have been predetermined on known existing capability some time ago, so this would have been a long-term planning thing. And I saw the satellite that they're sending up. It's enormous. Yeah. So a lot of work would have gone into that. I mean, years of work would have gone into that.
Yeah, and it is phenomenal seeing these results within our lifetime. Obviously, there's going to be seismic advances. It's a 1.8 billion mile journey to Jupiter. They're not even going to land when they do it. They're just going to circulate and see if there are conditions, as I understand it.
Well, yes, it's like, I think the period of time that astronomers work with is the time it takes. I think so. I'm not sure for sunlight from the sun to reach us. So they something like that, and then that's a new measure of time. So then they say the time to Jupiter is not 1.8 billion miles. It's 80 parsecs or something. So it sounds better. But no. I mean, what can you do? That's what we're sitting with. It was in the 30s that we thought we had 7 planets. I mean, it's all coming up, going very quickly. This type of thing, yeah. What people are learning all the time, and what is really interesting is that there are people like the people in the United States who are prepared to take the money that they earn and put it into these sort of satellites and stuff for us to get the benefit. I don't think any British people were putting their money in, or French or something. It's this group of people in America. As a matter of fact, it's also the group of people in America who put the money in to watch for rogue asteroids, the asteroid watch. And the rest of us just sit back and enjoy it. But we should be coming to everybody and saying, we want your £10 monthly asteroid watch contribution, please. And you should say, happily, yes, here's my money, because this is very important.
I think funding it and making that a part of people's lives. I mean, it's certainly the investment for the future of people going interplanetary exploration is superb. But we talked about the We Robot event, and that was, as you say, it's been hit after hit after hit, lots of great news. But I always make the point that where there's a hit, there's a writ, and Elon Musk has been accused of copying the designs by the iRobot director. So Alex Proas is his name, and he basically said, look, Elon copied the designs from his 2004 film for Tesla's new robots and self-driving vehicles. What's your take on that?
How did he copy the design? I mean, I don't think he copied any design. You mean it's got arms and legs? Yeah. I mean, no. I think the design Elon has copied is the human body. So I imagine the chap who did iRobot with his graphics and everything, he copied the human body as well, so I can't really.
But it was funny. Well, Proas is his name. He criticized the design on X. He took to his own Twitter feed, and his post received 6.4 million views, saying that these robots lacked originality and appeared to be borrowed from the sci-fi film, his iRobot. So it is interesting. But as you say, arms and legs, you've got it, haven't you?
Well, yes. I mean, I think I remember that film iRobot, but I seem to recall that the robots there certainly looked, different to the robot, Tesla robot. The Tesla robot's black. There are no facial features that I have seen, and the one from that film was sort of translucent blue or something.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, I mean, the only thing Elon has copied there is the human body. So now we could have made a robot. Whether it would be more efficient than the human body is probably difficult to say, because nature has always been cleverer than what we are. So the human body isn't such a bad design. But if Elon might have built one that looks more like R2D2, which
Right.
runs around on wheels, you see, and it's got a sort of one arm, or it's got four arms or something, and that would have been less welcoming in the home. I think the idea that the robot looks a bit like us is better, you know.
Oh no, I always make the point, and Elon said as well, it's all about companionship, and the more they look like us, the better. But what was interesting about this particular director, Proyas's claim, it started a big debate about to what extent technology and advances in technology and innovation are basically influenced by classic sci-fi films. So when he was saying, "Oh, it was all nicked from iRobot," people were pointing out, well, actually, Fritz Lang's 1927 film Metropolis, maybe that was the inspiration for your iRobot.
Yes, yeah, of course. If you go back to, I seem to remember that. Yeah, they look the same as the one in that 1927 film, very much the same. And it really was a case of how can you put very slim people into an outfit that they could pretend to be robots, you see. And so that's really what it boiled down to. You get the very slimmest people you can and sort of make them look like robots, you see.
Right.
I imagine in the 1927 film, because they wouldn't have been able to have a walking around robot. And now with the one recently, iRobot, of course, it was graphics. It was computer graphics. You know, it wasn't real things.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I don't. It's just nonsense. I mean, you know, nonsense.
Yeah,
And
and
of
there's
course,
nothing wrong with even if there is taking inspiration from some of these sci-fi works. I think Elon's acknowledged he's taken inspiration from Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and referenced movies like Blade Runner for Tesla's Cybertruck design. I think sometimes movies are quite inspirational. I always say about sort of holograms you see in Star Wars when Princess Leia would come up as one of those sort of things. And all of that, you imagine it and we can build it, is the short answer, isn't it?
yes, yes, of course. And if you look at the payload of the Starship, the actual 80-ton payload unit with its fins and you know, its shape and everything, looks exactly like the rocket that was in that movie Journey to the Moon with Jules Verne. You know, exactly the same. Looks exactly the same. I mean, you could take that one, take the one that Elon's got, and you could put it in that movie, and nobody'd notice the difference. You know,
Yeah.
the only one thing is that the one in the movie had a little door at the bottom that you opened. You walked in and out of the door, the bottom. You know.
Yeah. But
But
it's,
yeah,
it's
it's
I think it's
exactly.
great to take inspiration from movies. I mean, you're working on that sort of basis. If you read a lot, and I think we've chatted about this beforehand, when you're growing up and seeing all these things, and rather than just say, well, here's a rocket, what can I do with it? How can I take it one step further? And it's surrounding yourself with all these creative people who turn around and say, look, everything's possible if you imagine it, isn't it?
Yes, of course. Something interesting, you know, is that if you look at H.G. Wells stuff and Jules Verne stuff, now these guys were, you know, from the 1900s, and they were their far-sightedness. And of course, one can go on with Isaac Asimov and so on, but let's just stick with H.G. Wells and Jules Verne. The idea is 20,000 leagues under the sea, with a submarine that can go right down to the bottom and all that sort of stuff. And we now have that. We have all that stuff, and so this was incredibly far-sighted. And if you take H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds, where the Martians come and the tripods and how they come and almost take over in London, you know, and so on. The book is written around the tripods arriving in London, around London, and one hopes that isn't as too cleverly foreseen by H.G. Wells, because it's all the other stuff that he saw happened, and so we don't see that happen.
Well, I think you're right. I think science fiction. The other thing which we're seeing which is coming is George Orwell in 1984, and the way that the state is imposing all sorts of regulations on us.
Yeah, well, I mean, 1984 has been, they've tried it a lot. The only thing is, as I've said before, they try these kind of things. I mean, I've been to schools, I've been in the military where they lay down draconian rules only for the boys to break them. That's all. And to find out ways to break them and to laugh their heads off afterwards after having broken them, you know. And so, um, you know, you can't control people. People will only be controlled up to the point that they generally all allow themselves to be controlled. After that, they turn on you and they say, no, 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 not going to do it anymore. And so you might say, well, the Soviets got it right. No, they didn't. They collapsed in a heap. And to a large extent, they would have collapsed before if it wasn't for the fact that during the Second World War, they got so much material help from the West to fight the Germans. But if it wasn't for that, I think the Soviet Union would have collapsed much sooner than it did. And so any of the setups like that just don't last. Nobody takes notice of them. And as I said, in institutions where they lay down draconian rules, it's just the sport of how you get around those rules for the men, for me and the friends I've had, how you break the rules.
Yeah, you're
because if
absolutely
they
right.
too much, you break them.
And the more you
rules,
restrict, the more you restrict things. I mean, and there's throughout history, people have seen that. If you impose restrictions on society and so on and so forth, then people actually rebel. It's rather like in Scandinavia, they're much more free. They talk about sort of sex more freely in education and so on and so forth. And it would have Amsterdam. They have some of the lowest teenage pregnancy rates because they're so open and discuss it.
Yes, and they introduced when I was in Colorado. I've been going to Colorado for 20 years, and about 10 or 12 years ago, they legalized weed or cannabis. You could buy it anywhere, and the shops opened all over. So these shops, and I went in to have a look at them, one or two of them, and now you can't find one if you go there now because they all closed down because when you can buy it, it's not so much fun anymore. So that's just the way people are. I mean, people don't. It's just the way people are.
Oh no, it totally is. I mean, it's in literature and in music. If you ban something, if you ban a record or you ban a book, you can guarantee it will get to number one.
Yes, people then want it. They want to say, "Well, why is that banned?" And obviously, yes.
Yeah, fascinating stuff. As always, Errol, a real joy. When we come back, we're going to be talking about all things in the US and the influence that Elon might be having on the US election.
All right.